Hi folks, welcome back. I have a Black Forest custom order to show you today, and if you follow me already, you may remember that the Black Forest is one of my concept journals, and I wanted to show you how a custom order works out of the same, because you'll see that it won't have to be exactly the same, and that you can make requests and changes and tweak things and make it more personal if that is your wish. So it's slightly different but very, very similar in a lot of ways. So I'm going to do a quick as I can flip through this time. So I will start with the cover, and one of the things was that she really likes charms, so I've done some extra charms. So you have the double whammy of charms on the side and the spine charm, which the easiest way to show you will be to remove it. So we have some poison berries. You have a little bottle there with a sprig of something dried, some acorns, a key to the old Gothic house that you might find, and this is new, this is a little scroll. So you'll see how it's made just with an eyelet tied to a jump ring like that, and through the same eyelet I've just threaded a twine to act as the closure, and I'm trying to do this without looking, which is difficult. Okay, right, so let's just make sure that I'm in focus. Okay, and so that just rolls right up by itself, and I can't do that one-handed, so I'm going to just leave that aside and sit back. Oh no, I'll show you the charms. Okay, so cuckoo clock, because of the region of the Black Forest. It's a jewel, a yellow mushroom which matches the... I've chosen this kind of yellowy green colour to paint these beads for little mushrooms sprouting up, because it felt like they looked more kind of poisonous that way. So yellow one to match. And then there's some little storybook elements. There's a cottage in the woods. There's a fairy tale castle. Some wooden beads here. Wow, this is difficult. Okay, spinning wheel. And just some beads and a little leaf here, and a little cluster of black leaves, and then some tiny keys for all those secret doors and passages that you will find in the old Gothic castle. Okay, and I'll leave the spine off the side so that it's easier to handle the book. And we have a title, and that's how I've done the spine this time. Let's just focus, there we are. And in the top you'll see I've done 9 signatures, some nice headbands and some ribbon down here. And the one of the requests was for a more kind of Gothic going more to that angle. So I've changed the cover picture to this beautiful watercolour illustration of a castle rising up out of the forest here. It's really beautiful. And a metal clasp, which is a kind of, it's a faux clasp really. It doesn't hold anything together, but it looks cool. And the back is plain. We'll have, focus please, some metal corners. Okay, no, anyway, you know what metal corners look like. Right then, so for the inside of the book, let me sit back down. Okay. Oh, look at me trying to open the book with a clasp. Okay. So I've used this beautiful Gothic style wallpaper type paper, again from the Paper Tree Nook, and I hope you can see these beautiful golds. Very, very lovely paper. I have actually yet to find a Gothic castle in the forest near my house. I shall keep looking, because from what I read they are definitely there. Perhaps I just haven't been lost enough. I shall have to keep trying to get lost deeper and deeper. So in this book you will notice plenty of plant images and transfers, prints and eco dyes, and what you won't find is cute creatures and flowers. So it's all about the darker side of the forest again. I've swapped some of the images. This is your letter from the bookmaker, and I've used some silk leaves for tabs to stick out the side of the book. What you also won't find is any book pages. You will see some little bits of hand scribbled notes like so. I wanted a much more organic, natural kind of feel, perhaps a bit ageless, and just to be able to drift backwards into make-believe and fairy tales, and just to journey through this foresty trail in your own imagination. So I haven't included any ephemera or any printed text, as I said. There's I think just 2 images of mushrooms from encyclopedias that have a few words printed, and that's about it. So as I said, I wanted a very natural, organic feel to it. This is, I've just drawn this onto a page, some thorns, and these are original drawings. There's, I think, just 3 little kind of sketches, and I haven't scanned these or anything. I haven't printed them. They are totally unique and original for your book. There's some eco dye here. Hope you can see these faint leaf shapes. They look really beautiful. Lots of forest images. This is printed on fabric. This is a tracing paper window. I like that you can see trees behind here from the graphic behind. I think this is called Valkyrie, Arthur Rackham. Very beautiful. And I've just sewn a little frame here for a little journaling space, which I think is quite a cool idea, to use some of the blank spaces in your pictures. And these are handmade ATC cards, handmade paper, so you have this lovely woven texture on these that I've inked. So this is the first time that I've dealt with a male client, actually. So that was Stanley. So hi Stanley. And he's been really sweet. He's ordered this book for his girlfriend, Anna. So hi Anna. And he's been telling me about some of the things that she likes. So what I have had to do is remember not to sign my messages with kisses and hugs, because that would be strange. And I can totally be professional if I want to. I know how to do that, no matter what anyone says. This is Hansel and Gretel illustration. So something strange happened to me in preparation for this book. Just while I'm here, you can see these lovely algae patterns and the tiny leaf transfers. I was getting myself in the mood for this journal because it's very much a mood concept, this Black Forest. This is eco-dyed fabric, and so this is one of the encyclopedia illustrations with a little bit of text, some transfers. So I needed some more papers and plant material for dyeing and printing. I love these early morning mist effects too. So I went up to the local cemetery because I wanted some bramble leaves, and there is a little wild patch on our cemetery where the banks are very, very steep, so they don't use it. And I know that there was some brambles there. This little piece is like a little piece of lace that has been torn from somebody's sleeve, and you will see if you piece some of these notes together that somebody has got lost in the forest, and these notes are the person who is looking for her. So there's kind of personal notes and ramblings about trying to find her. So what was I talking about? The cemetery. Oh yes, so I was looking for brambles. And at this time of year there's actually not many leaves left, so I was literally wading through brambles for you guys, Stanley and Anna. Tramping through thorns because not a lot of leaves were left, but I found a few. This is tracing paper. And while I was bending down picking these brambles, I had the fright of my life I spun round because over my shoulder I actually saw a man just standing there watching me, very still, with his arms folded. And when I turned round, of course it wasn't a man at all. It was yellow holly growing on a tree trunk. It was completely surrounded. So it was this pillar of yellow that I'd caught through the corner of my eye. And so in my mind, he was actually stood there in a yellow raincoat watching me. This is some beech nuts that I've drawn. So that was scary. I scare easily, actually. But what was funny was that it perfectly illustrated what we were talking about last time, and how even your mood and your frame of mind can influence your environment and the forest around you. So some Gothic style alphabets there, and a little illustration, two little figures walking through the woods. So it was actually very interesting to me, because the whole time I had been thinking about this book, of course, and how I was going to work it and what I was going to use. And then the whole idea going round in my head decided to turn itself into this creepy man watching me. And the strange thing is that I had just examined that same tree. So I had walked past the holly, some algae type ink patterns. So I had walked past the same holly tree and actually examined the leaves to see if I wanted to pick some of them. And so that is the weird thing, that my brain knew what that yellow thing was, and yet it still created this image of a man in a raincoat. So really, I mean, it's your own imagination that scares you. If you are lost in the forest, it's no more scary than if you're not lost. You know, things don't literally change, but it's your brain, of course, that is telling you things are different. This fabric I've used because of this lovely bark pattern, hand dyed. You will hear me talk about that more in the other video. Some hand stitching on this tracing paper, and that's inked to look like bark. Yes, in my previous video, if you haven't watched it, I mean, it is very long, but if you're interested in the ramble and the background behind some of the ideas, then I do talk about it a bit more in that one. So this is 2 pages sewn together because of this tracing paper window, and then I've just used the top as a little pocket. And again, this is one of the Margaret Tarrant fairies, so a little bit more darker than the usual flower fairies. With all my pockets, I will normally line them with a layer of tea-dyed paper just to make them a bit sturdier. This time I've just done it slightly different, using torn edge paper, which just gives an extra layer. Another journaling card. And I forgot to show you the, if I just spread it out a little bit like that, the page edges look so cool on the side. You'll notice that the pages are actually very flat, even though they're dyed. And I wanted this effect that it's been lost in the forest, found under a log, where it's just got damp and pressed down together. You know how if pages get wet and they stay piled up like that, that's what happens. And it's not until we dry them actually that they go all crinkly. So I didn't want that crinkly effect. I wanted them very flat and that kind of leafy paperiness, and then the environment kind of eating away at the edges to produce this lovely effect that you see. And I think that was the page, yes. Another kind of a gothic element there with a mirror and the chandeliers. There's a wolf. And this, I've done one of these envelopes that you see me do quite often, and I've just used some bark printed paper this time, just for something different. I did print some papers with bark, and I was going to use them as pages, but it didn't quite look right. In this book it was a bit modern, I think, but I'm going to just show you because it is quite a cool idea. If I move these, you'll see them better. With the tracing papers, just printed them with bark textures of different kinds, and so that's definitely something that I can use another time in a different type of book. So you can see all different kinds of bark. That's a nice one too. Which way? And of course, you know, can play around with many textures. Doesn't have to be bark, but quite a lot of fun to be had, I think. So what was I talking about? I know I've forgotten to say something. I've put this big dried leaf here, and I thought, isn't that cool to journal over, just write over the whole thing. And I have a leaf to show you, so you can write on them. Like so. Some more hand-drawn thorns. Not quite sure what happened with these thorns. Something happened in my mind. It's kind of got a little fantasy element there. So this page I think is my favourite page. Originally I found this piece of fabric which was hand dyed, and I thought, oh, I'll put that with some of the thorns because that's what these lines remind me of. And then when it came to it, I decided to put a quote which has talks about the smoke of incense, and I thought actually it looks like smoke as well, so it's gone there, and I think it goes really well. It kind of looks like a book cover to me. I think maybe that's why I like it especially. Oh, that's a pocket also. Some tracing paper over burlap, looks quite cool because of the, you can see the texture through. More eco-dyed fabric. Oh, no butterflies also, but only moths. There's a little girl lost here. Some transfers. And these little seed heads I really like. These were dried seed heads, and it's clear on this side. They kind of remind me of spiders, so I thought it suited this journal really well. Kind of this clawing effect as well. It looks inhospitable, and that's the idea really behind this journal, is that things can become inhospitable and scary according to our mood. There is a magnetic clasp here with a little bit of extra writing, and in here, I've just put this in here to protect it, it's very fragile. Some dried leaves on some layered paper for a journaling card to write on the back. I might have to remove this to get it in again. So this is covered up and nice and safe in here. There are some delicate elements in this journal, so I would try to avoid squishing it too much. I know that we like to touch and feel, and that's fine. Just don't squish. So because there's some delicate specimens later on, I think, just a little fold out with some space for tags here, 3 little pockets. I think this is the last of any printed material here, just on this piece of scrapbook paper. There's a teeny pocket, envelope made of eco-dyed fabric, and an eco-dyed paper leaf for a teeny journaling spot, and some machine lines. There's a lot of pages in this book, so I don't want to dwell on things too long. I really like this piece of eco-dyed fabric, so I've just sewn that on both sides there. This is me that day on the cemetery, all lost and destitute and tangled up in the thorns and brambles. This is tuck spot, and I've just put this with the tree background. This is Isabella, and I'm not going to say what her story is. I'll leave that to your own imagination. I like to slip things in sometimes just loosely like this. She does actually fit here quite well. If you prefer it glued in, you know, feel free to glue it in wherever you like. But it was just a little photograph, and the idea of it just being tucked in makes me think that perhaps it's picked up and removed and looked at and handled a lot, and she is dear to somebody. So that's Isabella, and she sits in here. One day I will tell you about my mother's address book and the connection there with that photograph being loose. some hand-carved stamps. There's a feather. This is a kind of a loose tag that's just tied here with twine. Oops, sorry. And a quote. There. This is from the Grimm's Brothers. The reason that I called, oh sorry, let me read you this because it's so pretty. This is The Dwarf's Dream, the name of the story or the poem, I'm not sure. And this page is called His Dream. I'm not sure if this is the dwarf. It says down here, he would bring her acorn cups and dew-drenched anemones and tiny glowworms to be stars in the pale gold of her hair, which is so beautiful. And here I've done, it's actually easier to see on the back. So tracing paper, as you've seen before, so that it's see-through, and what I've done is, as well as remove the middle section, I've done some extra lines and just removed a few other sections as well, just to give a little bit of dimension as well. And you can see, you may not see on the camera, but you can see the light coming through the little patches. Yeah, so the reason that this is called the Black Forest is not because it represents the Black Forest especially, but as I said, just the mood that can be achieved. That's a really beautiful quote. So this is one of the delicate specimens that we're trying not to squash. This is Honesty, and these are the husks from the seed heads, and they are really unusual. It's almost like a very thin onion skin, very kind of papery and see-through. You can see the light through them. They're beautiful. Yeah, so the Black Forest. Oh, and also, sorry, I keep jumping backwards and forwards. Some of these moth prints, I've used this stamp quite a lot, and some of them I have used wet ink, like a calligrapher's ink, to print them. And I really like this kind of fluid effect that you get. You get some pooling with the ink, and of course you lose some of the finer details. But I really like this. It looks more organic again. And even you get some variation, of course, where the ink pools, you get some variation in colour. It looks quite cool. So if the Black Forest had been called the Yellow Happy Forest, I probably would have gone with something else. So this is not especially to represent that forest. But I use it more as an adjective, I suppose, the Black Forest, rather than the name of a particular place. So this pocket I've done just a single one, not a double, and I've attached it to paper with a fabric hinge, eco-dyed cloth again. As you can see, there's a I think that was a sycamore leaf, and the pocket I've done like that, so it's like a letterbox again. Well, it's kind of like a big buttonhole. I've just stitched round in a thin slit, kind of a box here, and then just opened up the middle, and that just slips in there with an old Gothic alphabet. Oh, and down here is a handmade paper clip with some poison berries. Wow, this video has turned into a long one again, I'm sorry about that. As I said, there was a lot of pages, and I don't know, I just can't seem to do short videos. Again with a torn paper pocket. And the library card is, what is it? Grimm's Fairy Tales. Some more bulky tracing paper. Here's another of these stamps, and I've just used some layers of differently dyed papers to get this nice effect. Oh. Focus. Okay. It's a nice stamp, that one. That one over fabric, and that's another of those handmade ATCs. And this was another idea that I thought would probably be more in place in a different journal, but it was something I wanted to try, so you can take it out of here if you want. Just a little file folder, but I just had the idea of using a different shape for the tab. So it's still like a thumbnail, so easy to open like this. As you can see, I've just made a leaf and sewn around. So inside another specimen. This one has a bit more protection being inside. There's a quote. Oh, let's try it more slowly. Sorry. Is that working? Have another one of these here with some ink spots. And I've made a little tag like this of a dried oak leaf, just sandwiched in tracing paper and sewn round in it in a shape of a leaf. I thought that looked quite cool. And that's that. So I've just slipped that in here. And that is your Black Forest journal. I hope that you are both pleased with that, and I've certainly enjoyed making it. This is one of my favourites, I think. And my next journal is also a concept journal, but it's not one that you've seen, so I'll be excited to show that to you in a week or so. And that's it for now. I think that's everything. Thanks very much for coming back to see me, and for watching, and for your patience. Thanks guys, see you next time. Bye.